So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session of eNishchit. And today we again have all centers from North India and South India together. So all four states are with us together. So before we go ahead, let us have a poll of attendance. And I request you to please complete that poll of attendance within 3 minutes. And while we are polling, let me welcome everyone. I welcome all the ART centers who have joined us. I can see lots of familiar faces now. Over the years, we have become very familiar with people attending the ART center, and it's always a pleasure to meet people. Then we have our expert for today, that is Dr. G. Narendran. He's a scientist E from NIRT Chennai, and I met him several years ago when he was planning a research on TB-RS, and though we weren't a part of it, I know he went ahead and did it, and he also has publications. So he's a real expert who has a real field as well as research experience in the field of TB-RS, and we welcome you, sir. Welcome, Dr. Narendran.
Thank you for the kind introduction, ma'am.
Then I have with me today, the session is being co-hosted by Dr. Ananya. We are sitting on different computers because of the social distancing problem. Delhi is really bursting with the cases now. Can I request Ananya to just wave? Dr. Ananya, please wave. So we are co-hosting. I am Ananya. I am Dr. Upasana from NITRD. She is Dr. Ananya. She is a chest specialist. And then we have the team from Echo India. I can see Gaurav Rewadi, and I can see the Share India team, which is Ajit and Vandana. So I welcome you all. Vandana, is the poll done?
Yes, ma'am, we can move ahead.
So yes, with the poll now and the introduction, I now request everybody to do the pre-test questionnaire. And have a look at the pre-test questionnaire. The most common time when iris can be suspected in PL-HIV, the time frame is, there are 4 options, which is the correct one. Within a day of initiating ART, between 24 to 36 months of initiating ART, between 5 days to 3 months of initiating ART, or it is suspected only after 6 months of starting ART. So that is your first question. Within a day, after 24 to 36 months of ART, between 5 days to 3 months, or after 6 months of ART. The common time frame when you get immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome in a person living with HIV. Now coming to the second question, which of the following statements is false? Iris can also occur without immune compromise. It is not specific for any organism, and it is not specific to ART. It doesn't require treatment change when it is the paradoxical type. Iris is unique to HIV alone. So in this case, you have to pick out which one is false. So 3 are correct and 1 is false. I'll repeat the options. Which of the following statements are false? Iris can only occur if there is immune compromise. Iris is not specific to any organism or to ART alone. It doesn't require treatment change when iris is the paradoxical type, and iris is unique to HIV alone. Just 2 questions. Can I request you people to please do it fast so we can move on? So Ajit, can I request you to remove the pretest? I'll go on to the introduction of the agenda. Well, today's agenda is, first we have done our poll of attendance. I have introduced you. We have had our introductions. Today there's a slight difference in program. Instead of beginning with the case presentation, we would begin with the didactic. This is on special request by Dr. Narendran, and we would like to honor his request. So the format would be first the presentation, then the case discussion, and then the case presentation, and then a discussion on the case. So Ajit, if you could possibly, is the poll closed now?
Yes, it's closed.
Okay. So can I please request Dr. Narendran, Scientist E from Department of Clinical Research, NIRT Chennai, to kindly deliver his didactic on tuberculosis-induced immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome. Over to Dr. Narendran, please. Who would be sharing his slides? Sir would be sharing, or Ajit, would you be sharing?
First of all, my My humble pranams and thanks to the organizers, Dr. Upasana Madam. She still remembers we had a 2-hour long discussion because we wanted to take her service because now she's one of the most efficient and dedicated persons in HIV.
Thank you, sir.
So thanks to you, ma'am. In fact, we are unfortunate not to have tied up with you due to various administrative reasons.
Yeah.
So are the slides clear? It's visible?
Yes, they are visible, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So the basic idea behind me requesting to have the presentation first, the basic reason is once you know how to go about, then it is not very difficult for you to discuss the importance of the case, how good the case has been worked out. I really appreciate the presenter because they have done a very detailed evaluation of the case, and my appreciation for the presenter and the team. So once I go with my slides, I go down with my slides, and then to make the long story short, you will be able to understand the pain taken by the presenter, as well as you'll be able to have this concept very clear. So once you are ready with the concept, whichever way you want to go, it's even if somebody throws a jigsaw puzzle on iris, you'll be able to solve it in seconds. So that is the basic idea behind me requesting for the presentation. So I'll go straight away into the presentation. Okay, now what is this immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome? So it is called by various names like immune restitution syndrome, paradoxical reaction, paradoxical upgrading reaction. The basic idea is very simple. You have a patient who is being started on ATT and then started on ART. What happens initially with anti-tuberculosis treatment or any specific treatment for the opportunistic infection? You will see that the patient's symptoms improve, the patient becomes all right. Then after ART, we expect the guy to be much more efficient, his quality of life being improved, but instead he goes into an apparent deterioration. This is what is called IRIS, or immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome. The name is self-explanatory. There is reconstitution or restitution of the immunity, which is followed by inflammation, and the signs and symptoms pertaining to or associated with the inflammation, you call it a syndrome. So it is nothing but let's not go with English jargon. It's very simple. Immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome. The most important thing for you to rule out are 2 or 3. Number 1, you have to rule out most of them present with fever. So fever is something unique in all these cases. In our studies, we have found that nearly 60 to 70% of them present with fever. So it's not very difficult for you to diagnose fever, especially post-ART, because it has got a more temporal relationship to ART than anti-tuberculosis treatment or any specific treatment. The second thing is, first the temporal relationship to ART. The second thing is you have to rule out drug resistance. Drug resistance, when we started seeing these IRIS cases, drug resistance, zidovudine-induced anemia these two were the most common, very close mimics of IRIS. Third one, it doesn't occur in a patient who is failing therapy. That is whether it is, I mean virological failure. That is, patient is not taking ART. His symptoms are bound to remain persistent. So first thing you have to ascertain is that the patient is taking his ART regularly. Second thing is to find out if there is a resistance which has built up with respect to the opportunistic infection. Third thing is if there is any toxicity. Fourth thing is usually what is taught in medicine, common things common first. Look at the endemic causes of fever at that particular time. So if it is going to be at this era, you should have done a COVID test before saying that it is IRIS, because COVID also can present, because it is the IRIS of COVID which is killing millions of people throughout the world. So this is how it goes, and there are 2 types. What I have described is the paradoxical type, which is much more easier to diagnose. It is easier to diagnose, but it is difficult to treat. Where I have told you, the patient is, now I'll pertain my slides only to TB IRIS, because IRIS is a huge spectrum. So I'll confine myself to tuberculosis IRIS. So there are paradoxical TB IRIS is when a patient is put on anti-tuberculosis treatment initially, the patient does well, but after some time, when you start the patient on ART, instead of seeing an improvement, you are seeing a deterioration. This is very classical type of paradoxical iris. There is one more iris called unmasking iris. What happens is a patient who is symptomatically normal, he is asymptomatic, I'm sorry, who doesn't have any clinically abnormal findings, he just runs into a clinic and you start the patient on ART. Suddenly, like an volcano erupting, the patient develops a TB of a particular gland or a particular region or a particular organ, which props up after ART initiation. In India, it is very difficult to diagnose or differentiate or segregate unmasking iris from undisclosed TB. What I mean to say is, I'm sorry, undiagnosed TB. What I mean to say is there may be patients where we have overlooked or we were not able to find out TB, diagnose TB initially. But later when you start on ART, the TB flares up. So it's really difficult. It's a $1 billion question whether we want to categorize as unmasking TB or undiagnosed TB, but it all remains the same as far as treatment is concerned, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you look at the statistics, iris can occur even without HIV, but the percentage is very small. We usually see it with TB of the lymph nodes and tuberculoma. Apart from that, if you have HIV and TB, that is patients in the pre-ART era, it was around 2%. After we sequentially started ART, it is 21%. Given together, it is 43%. And in fact, ours was the highest, which is around 56%. Our study was the only study globally done among culture positive patients, and hence we were able to give the highest number of iris cases because we were actively looking for it. Every day we used to, because we were also beginners, we did not know how to proceed with this kind of an iris reaction. We used to monitor patients every day in the hospital when they were initiated on ART for around 14 days. As you know, in 2004, as a proud student of Dr. Rajsekharan and Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, we used to gather information from them and start searching for these symptoms right from day one of ART. And what we found was, if you actively search for them, the incidence goes up. So ours was 56%, nearly half of the patients had ART, but there was a drawback. All our patients had advanced HIV. Their viral loads were not less than 5 to 6 lakhs. Their CD4s were never more than 150 cells. So that was the time period in which this happened. The reason for me to tell you this is the policy of test and treat by NACO and WHO has really would have brought down the incidence of iris if you are to do it now, because you are treating patients on ART at a higher CD4, which is very, very important. The reason is iris is nothing but I would call it as the predestined fury of the perturbed immunity. It is like this. I am trying to tie off your hands and legs, and I'm putting you right in front of a mob. And you know the usual college mob, what they do, they just try to criticize you, mock jokes at you and all that. So you are really feeling frustrated. But when I remove the rope from your hand and legs, who knows, you may go and bash somebody. That is the same thing which happens to immunity, which is restored actively. It is not only an anatomical redistribution of your immune cells, but it's a functional reactivation. So there is anatomical redistribution, more amount of CD4 cells and all those phenotypes which come out. Along with that, restoration of the immune cells. So this is also very, very important. So with this in mind, usual symptoms, you already know, all of you will know. It's very, very common to have all these symptoms. I don't want to reiterate once again due to the constraints of time. So usually it occurs from the first week, it goes up to 3 months. Anything beyond 3 months, please take it with a pinch of salt. We call it as late onset iris. Now iris can occur in HIV. All that it requires is a session of immunosuppression followed by immune restitution. I'll come to that slide so that you can have an idea how it goes. So when to look for, how to diagnose, and what to rule out. This is the way in which we look at iris. Usually follows a temporal relationships, as I told you. Anytime it can occur, but very rare after 3 months. After 3 months, you are seeing a patient with iris. It is better for you to look at alternate diagnosis rather than sticking on to the diagnosis of iris. The most important, it's not just at the initial start of ART. Suppose a patient was failing viral antiretroviral therapy and you are changing to second line or third line drugs. Again, the relative immunorestitution can cause iris. A patient on steroid therapy, suddenly you remove the steroids, again this can occur. This is important for you to remember. Next is how to diagnose. Till now, we had been relying on clinical diagnosis. The most important is, if it's paradoxical, it is very easy. There is an improvement with ATT and a deterioration with ART. There are various criteria which is given, but the only most important objective criteria for you to say, yes, it is iris. Yes, patient should have a viral load decline of at least 0.5 log. So as physicians, we are always weak in mathematics. Of course, I am honestly speaking, that's the reason I took medicine, because I was weak in mathematics. So 1 log is nothing but in log 10, if the viral load is 4 lakhs, it should reduce to 40,000. If it is 40,000, it should reduce to 4,000. It doesn't mean that it is a log decline, means this is how it goes, and 40,000 should be less than 4,000. 4,000 should be less than 400. So you can calculate the 0.5 log. It is not 20,000, it will be somewhere between that. So if your viral load declines at the time you are diagnosing iris, you are right. Now initially we thought the CD4 should increase. But later, as you go in depth into immunology, thanks to my mentor, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who is currently the WHO chief research scientist, you will see that the CD4s get deposited into the site of inflammation. That being the case, it is not difficult for you to understand that what you are measuring is the circulating CD4s. So the CD4s can increase or decrease. But if you have an increase in CD4, you can convincingly say that yes, it is iris. The other important point is that if you start giving steroids, the lymphocytes and CD4s will reduce. So you have to do this before you give a single pill of steroid. So the best approach is to find out if the viral load has declined. Secondly, that the disease is not active. What I mean to say is, if you do a probe into the diagnosis of TB by smear, by culture, usually smears are positive. The reason being that you see dead bacilli because of the immune outburst. But the culture will be negative. They are defective, either they are defective or totally dead bacilli which you recover from any specimen. So that is what is important. So what to rule out? So what are the differential diagnoses you need to rule out? I see most often when we have our corporation workers, when we accompany them for this COVID, even before we open the door, they will say, no fever, no cough, no sore throat, please go away. So it is very difficult for you to elicit, but history taking is an art. So try to find out the adherence. When we start counseling patients, we never shout at the patients because they will not say. One of them will shout, the other will start fondling the patient actually, saying that no, you see the medical officer talking only for your benefit, please let me know how many tablets you have missed. Slowly you will get the history that patient has missed the drugs. That being the case, it is not iris. So adherence is important. To rule out drug resistance is important. And then when you look at the specifics, I have done the whole thing. I am confident that the patient has taken the drugs, but what is happening? One is virological failure. Patients may fail therapy, but it is not too frequent early. Let's say about 3 to 6 months, because you diagnose virological failure later date. So it's most a problem of late onset iris rather than early onset iris. Immune discordance, very, very important. The patient can have progression of disease because of immune discordance. See, HIV and diabetes, if you take, they have a similarity. All the pathies of HIV and diabetes, let's say neuropathy, nephropathy, cardiomyopathy, all these things are related to the duration of disease, whereas all the opportunistic infections in diabetes are related to the level of hypoglycemic status. The same way, in HIV, all the neuropathies are related to your lack of ART initially, Whereas all the opportunistic infections are related to your CD4 count. What I mean to say is if your CD4 is quite low, even though you may have suppressed viral loads, you are still prone for TB and other opportunistic infection. That's what I want you to say. IRIS is an apparent failure. I won't call it as a failure, it's an apparent failure. The other important thing which you have to rule out is malabsorption, which is very common in HIV. In malabsorption, what happens? The difference is in drug resistance, you will see smear and culture. If you take the culture is resistance. Now you have gene expert, you have LPA. In IRIS, you will see the culture is negative. Whereas in malabsorption, you will see the culture is positive, but you will have sensitive organisms. This is how you differentiate between the three. Please note it down somewhere. You become a TB expert immediately after this session. The other important thing is non-tuberculous mycobacteria, which is very, very common if your CD4 is less than 100. Of course, because of your test and treat policy, you may not have, not be able to see this MAC. But very commonly you see MAC. You think that it is IRIS, it's actually MAC because you're not treating it. It's not a very difficult thing to do. All that you need to do is add clarithromycin to your HREZ to cover up for MAC. And try to change, because now rifabutin is available instead of rifampicin, you give rifabutin, because ethambutol, clarithromycin and rifabutin, they do a good job on MAC. It always presents in a systemic manifestations like fever, chronic diarrhea and all that. Nocardiosis is little rare. It's not very common. The other important thing is bacillary escape. Bacillary escape is when you have a patient where you have few colonies and the colonies will be resistant to all anti-tuberculous drugs. This is otherwise called transient resistance. So that being the case, you just allow the patient to continue the same treatment. You don't change the treatment. You will see that patient does well and the cultures are negative or the smears turn out to be negative. So these are the differential diagnosis of what happens in a patient with on TB treatment and ART, what happens. This is very, very important for you because IRIS, if you take paradoxical IRIS, the treatment is very simple. You give anti-inflammatory drugs. It depends on the severity. If it's a very, very minor, if it's minor, let's say a localized lymphadenitis, NSAIDs will do. If it's going to be a cold abscess, you just drain it and keep it dry. If it's systemic, try to start giving steroids. If it's superfluous, you have to give IV parenteral steroids. Sometimes we have treated patients with thalidomide, and most of these cases respond. So with that, I'll go to the pathology of or pathophysiology of IRIS. This is one of my colleagues from NIH. He did a beautiful mouse model which came in Nature. All that he did was, instead of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, he used Mycobacterium avium because avium does not kill the rat. So we'll be able to see what is happening in the rat. So he took wild mice and then transfected it with activated CD4 cells, that is CD4 cells which are angry, and then infected the mice with the avium. There was no such thing called IRIS in the mice. So he did the reverse. He gave the infection in the first two rows are immunocompetent mice. So all that he did was, now he transfected the mice with avium and then again put these angry cells to see if there is any reaction. Nothing happened. He irradiated the mice so that the CD4 cells are lost. Like a cancer patient, post chemotherapy or post radiotherapy, the mice was docile. When he infected it with avium, after the mice was made immunocompetent, that is initially with activated CD4 cells, later with avium, there was no IRIS. The last row is very, very important. An immunosuppressed mice where he put the infection, waited for some time for the infection to have a hold of the mice, and then transfected with CD4 cells, then he had IRIS. So the pathogenesis is very simple. You allow the organism, whether it's TB, HIV is a very good scenario where the infection is widespread, it takes a hold, the weakened immune system is not able to manage. That is why we call this as the perturbed immunity. it is already predestined, that is waiting to hit the bacilli. But once you give it the ART, the cells become functional once again, and then it starts secreting the all the inflammatory cells. So this process is gone now because you are starting ART at a higher rate, so the incidence is bound to come down. So I'll just quickly go through the cases if there is time, or we can go to the presentation again and then come back. What do you suggest, ma'am?
So we can continue with the current presentation.
Okay, ma'am. I'll make it very short, and you have your liberty to cut me short, because I always start telling Mahabharat. Okay, so cut me short when the time is.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay, ma'am. So this is a 12-year-old young boy. He was sent to us because he was being evaluated for his PUO. He had 6 months of PUO, and then we could see the mediastinal adenopathy. So we did this was in 2004. My teacher, Dr. Rajsekharan sir, diagnosed this case. So he helped me in treating this case. This patient was admitted in Tambram. So this 12-year-old boy had fever initially and then had mediastinal adenopathy. We just did a workup. We were not sure that he was retro positive, but he later turned out to be retro positive. So we were shocked to see that he was retro positive. In fact, we also had an idea of child abuse, because 12 years he was totally asymptomatic, which is not very common. He had a normal growth and all that for 12 years, suddenly developed fever, and fever was continuous. We gave him ATT. His culture turned out to be positive at a later date, because those days we never had gene export or LPA. We had to wait for the LJ cultures, which takes nearly 2 to 3 months. And then you can see that the lymph nodes have totally melted down. You have a normal contour of the superior mediastinum. We gave him ART at the 4th month, because we never had those lower doses of efavirenz at that time. 9th day into ART, you can see the lymph nodes literally worsening than the initial picture. So the mother and the boy started abusing us. So we never knew the science behind this. It was Dr. Rajsekharan and Dr. Swaminathan who told me and taught me the first case of iris, which we published in Indian Journal of Pediatrics. So all that we did was continued his ATT. We never augmented his ATT with any drugs. And then after steroids, look at the normal X-ray. So at that time, viral loads were very difficult for us to see. So all that we did was, when we found out at the time of iris, you can see the CD4 really soaring up to 221. And when viral load was available, we did it, it was less than 400. You should also pay heed to the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin takes a longer time to revive, but it's a very specific indicator to say that yes, patient is improving, patient is not deteriorating. Because initially there's a dip in hemoglobin, and after the infection, usually the hemoglobin steadily improves. So this is another case, very much related to the case which is being presented today. This was a lady who came to us with this X-ray. Every time I show this X-ray, to know if I had made a mistake, I asked anybody to find out if there is any abnormality in it. But usually what happens, it's a normal X-ray. So this patient was started on ART. Post ART, 6 months, suddenly she landed up with her emergency department with this kind of an X-ray. Typical pulses paradoxes. Then we took her to the theater, and then using ultrasound as well as ECG gated, we aspirated just 120 ml. She regained her pulse. The pulses paradox disappeared. Her breathlessness totally subsided. And later we had to aspirate around a liter of straw colored fluid. So this is a classical case of unmasking iris, where there was some lesion in the mediastinal nodes which we would have missed. But later this patient, after starting ART, developed pericardial effusion. Treatment is very simple. Start the patient, in this case, start the patient on ATT. That's why unmasking iris is difficult to diagnose, easy to treat. Paradoxical iris is easy to diagnose, difficult to treat. So this is another case where patient CD4 was 21 or so, it was around 17 cells. So you could see the perihilar shadows. So as experts, I did not tell you this was a combined case of TB and PCP. We treated the patient for both. 2 months, patient had a resolution. After ART, 12th or second week of ART, full-blown ARDS. All that we did was again continued clotrimazole high dose because we did not know how to treat on those days. Then steroids. Look at the X-ray, beautiful clearance. She was doing well. So in this case, we had the opportunity of doing viral loads at a more frequent spacing. So we can periodically monitor. You can see at the iris, just 2 or 3 weeks, you can see the drastic reduction in viral load from 400 to from 7 lakhs to 400, less than 400. That is what the machine can detect, and the CD4 has soared up to 164. Again, look at the HB. HB takes a longer time, but definitely it is improving. This is another case from Vellore. You can see these are the type of cavities you see usually in patients with TB, because if you give such an X-ray, I will say please check for immunocompromisation, because usually cavity develops in a space of consolidation. You have a consolidation place where you have a cavity, and you see the surrounding walls are usually thinner in HIV because there is paucity of CD4 alveolitis. One of the differential diagnosis for X-ray normal sputum positive is a patient with CD4 less than 100 with TB, and after 2 months the cavity has collapsed. When we started on ART, he had TB of the meninges. So this is another caveat which I want you to impress upon, that it doesn't mean that a patient having a lung disease should have an iris only at the lung. It can occur anywhere. Again, these are cases where it's very difficult for us to categorize as paradoxical or unmasking, because the patient has already started taking ATT. We take it as paradoxical, and so treatment is, we have not changed the treatment. We just gave him, continued his treatment along with steroids. Retrospectively, we found that the cavity has enlarged in size. You can see this is more of a typical cavity which we see in tuberculosis rather than the previous one. So we wanted to predict what are the, excuse me for a second. What are the predictors which you can tell that this is iris? Anything leading to advanced immunocompromisation, as you can see from here, can predispose to iris. The most important is the timing of ART with respect to ATT. With test and treat policy, this problem is much more, it's not a major problem as far as the current scenario of TB treatment is concerned in HIV. So what did we look at the cytokine profile? You may be very much interested in cytokines because now we have actually jumped from cytokine storm to bradykinin storm in COVID. So I will tell you the similarities between COVID iris and HIV iris. Now when you look at what happens at the time of those red bars are those patients who had iris, and the blue bars are those who did not have iris. Now all this, don't get tensed up with all these IL-1 beta, tumor necrosis alpha and all this. All that I want to say is those inflammatory factors which are very important in inflammation, they are all the same when you look at iris and non-iris patients. There's not much of difference. Of course, there is a difference in interferon gamma and alpha at the time of iris. So you cannot predict whether the patient will go for iris based on these factors. Prediction requires something to be different at baseline before you start ART. So we were able to be magicians in telling this guy that please be aware that you will develop, with one of the tuberculoma cases, we said that after ART you will develop fits. So don't get jittery. All that you need to do is please get admitted, because he initially refused admission. Then when he developed fits, immediately he was able to understand our problem, and then he got admitted, and he was looking at us like demigods. How did you predispose or predict that I will have a fits? Very simple science. So what we did was we looked at what happens at the baseline. This is a picture which is very much close to your COVID. Now these blue points are the points which are actually patients who did not experience iris, and these red ones are the patients who experienced iris. You look at the monocytes or you look at the lymphocytes, whichever they are the same, more or less will be the same. At the time of, at baseline, compared to what is happening, what we have done is this M3 is nothing but an equivalent point whereas iris occurs. That is usually 2 to 3 months. So at 3 months, we struck the blood of patients who were controls. And what we found, there was an increment in the monocytes. But surprisingly, there was a decrease in monocytes among patients who developed iris. If the inflammatory cells are going to go down in the count, why should a patient develop inflammation? Then that was the first time we understood that it is what we are measuring is the circulating monocytes, not the cells which are actually landed up at the place to start fighting against the bacilli or any opportunistic infection. So, but the granulocytes actually had a different way of approach. There was not only increased deposition inside the tissue, there was more granulocytes in the peripheral blood. This is almost similar to what is happening in COVID, where you can see that the granulocytes are rising and the lymphocytes are dropping, and that's why you see a ratio being more than 3.3, which predicts severity. I know that you would have seen from the various classifications and guidelines given that there is an increase in granulocyte lymphocyte ratio, which happens specifically because of this kind of a phenomenon. And these monocytes, when they become tissue macrophages, they start secreting IL-6. You see that the IL-6 levels are more among patients of iris at baseline itself. It is not at the time of iris episode, at baseline itself. And further it increases. Please remember, this is a logarithmic curve, so the differences between this blue and this blue is much more than what is perceived in the graph. And when we adjusted for other things, this is what we shared with our state government with respect to dealing with COVID. So I'll briefly tell about why tocilizumab should fail in a majority of cases and help only in a limited number of cases. Of course, this is my opinion, and it's not opinion of my institute. If you take the cytokines, they are pleomorphic as well as redundant. That means one cytokine can have multiple functions, and multiple cytokines can have the same function. When a mob is attacking, trying to get hold of one guy can only help in trying to investigate into other people rather than telling that this is the only guy who was responsible. That is why tocilizumab is failing. So just out of it. So managing iris, as you know, steroids are helpful. Montelukast was found to be helpful, but later we found out it is not. Maraviroc, the Cadre already found out that it was just an incidental finding. Thalidomide does help. Statins help. In fact, we have seen in COVID patients also that those who are on statins regularly, despite being hypertensive, they have a good prognosis because the statins help to inhibit the JAK-STAT pathway. So even in COVID, the statins do help. So all the other things are under consideration. So this slide of tocilizumab I had prepared in 2008. So you can see that at that time the phase 1 was going for reduced CRP and IL-6. So this is the way, these are the various regimens available. Now coming to the last part of the slide, if you have iris, it's always better to have HIV rather than not having HIV, because in the immunocompetent person, there is no way you can find out whether the person is progressing or the person is having only iris. What I mean to say is the dilemma occurs everywhere. In tuberculosis, we have seen patients totally asymptomatic, but the repeated MRI show these tuberculosis increasing in size. We see patients who are deteriorating, having twitchings, having on and off fits, but the tuberculosis decreasing in size. What then really is the cause? It's really very difficult to diagnose iris in non-HIV patients with tuberculosis. It's only a rule of the thumb, so you have to sit with your physicians, discuss, and then take a call. This was one of our patients who had a non-retrovirus patients who had a tuberculosis. You can see the lesions, in fact, multiple tuberculosis. And then what happened? The neurologist suspected iris, and we gave him steroids. I told you already, the commonest differential diagnosis for iris is MDR-TB. Then patient did well, 2 years, came back with much more severe lesions. So they did a spectroscopy. you can see these conglomerate lesions. The radiologist immediately called us and said, Narayan, you are wrong. These conglomerate lesions are more in favor of drug resistance. So again, check this thing. I said, yes, it can be. I do not deny your or oppose your diagnosis. But the problem is, how do you diagnose this as MDR TB in this thing? Because the patient CSF was negative. The patient initially had pressure symptoms. You can't put in a needle. You can't put a needle into this and see, because you're definitely able to diagnose MDR TB, but the patient will have paralysis at a later date. So it's really a cause of alarm. So all that we did was cocktail therapy. We continued the steroids, changed the patient to MDR therapy, and I'm still awaiting the patient's next MRI, with which I'll boldly say, yes, we have done a good job for the patient. It's a young girl. So you can imagine the stress on the patient and the parents. So this is something which is very, very important, that among patients without HIV, but in HIV it is child's play. You diagnose, you try to take, let's say, a lymph node, send the specimen for culture. Culture is negative. Even if smears or biopsy are positive, don't worry. Cultures are negative, it is iris, go ahead and give steroids. So this is these are cases where it's very difficult for us to proceed at that time. Retrospectively, we can tell so many things, because when I presented about iris in Washington, there was one person called Grammy Manges, which you will know. He's one of the doyens in iris. He asked me, how many cases have you misdiagnosed MDR TB as iris? We lost 2 cases in Vellore. This is what I said. He said, excellent, because 30% we had missed MDR TB. So this is very, very important, because every move done by the program you need to appreciate. The CTD has definitely brought in GeneXpert and LPA, which was not available to us at that time. Just like your instant coffee and instant upma, you have GeneXpert. If your GeneXpert is positive and resistant initially, straight away you can say that this is not going to be a case of iris. So diagnosing iris in MDR TB is another big thing. I don't want to confuse you, but all that I'm saying is these are the ways in which you can predict and diagnose iris much more easily. So the similarities and dissimilarities I told you, steroids are the only candidate. The only difference I see is that COVID doesn't give too much of time for you to understand about iris. You know that what you are trying to have, the problem is because of the immune cells destroying cells infected with COVID virus. So that is the reason steroids have to be given fast. So again, I'm telling my humble opinion, it is not that Dexa will help, methylpred will not help, prednisolone will help. All of them are sisters. If one helps, the other helps. It all depends on the clinical scenario. You don't expect a guy who is breathless, who is unconscious, to be started on oral steroids, so I give IV steroids. Crofton and Douglas is a very good book. If you look at the pharmacology, he gives the conversion factor for which steroid to use. I'm using Dexa 6 milligram. How much should I change to if I'm going to give prednisolone? Multiply by that number, 2.6 or so. So if it's 6 milligram of prednisolone, I'm sorry, 5.5. So it is 33 milligrams of prednisolone if you give 6 milligrams of Dexa. And please be careful. When you are reducing the steroids, you should do it in a tapered way, because guidelines give you a broad perspective of how you have to handle cases. But chemistry I am interested in is in happy hypoxia. Why do the receptors not able to diagnose that there is hypoxia? What is happening to the carotid and the aortic bodies which are present in your arteries? So this remains a mystery. Again, hiccups. We have presented a paper where we have said that hypercytokinemia, which occurs in iris, causes hiccups, and we are seeing more cases of COVID presenting with just hiccups. Initially thought to be steroid induced, but if a patient has got hiccups, again keep it in mind. Apart from your anosmia and ageusia, unexplained hiccups suddenly in a person with a sore throat, check him for COVID. So with this, I'll complete it, and if there are any more questions, I'll be glad to take at the end of the thing. I'm sorry that I've eaten away your time. So we'll go straight into the presentation. And thank you once again to the organizers for giving me an opportunity. If there is science is something which is evolving all the days, it doesn't mean whatever I say is correct. You can disprove it using your own research and evidences. It is evidence based. And I am extremely grateful to my teachers, Dr. Swaminathan and Dr. Rajsekharan sir. They are very prominent figures, and there are hundreds of teachers whom I can say, but with the short of time, I'll just complete my lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such an excellent and elaborate presentation. And I would recommend everyone, including myself, to go again and again listen to this, to imbibe all what you said, because you touched so many topics so beautifully and even taught us about COVID. Thank you very much, sir. So next on agenda, we'll have a quick post test. And I'll give 2-3 minutes. We'll give 2-3 minutes for that, and then we'll have the case presentation. So can we, Mr. G, can we please pull the post? Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to do this
Dr.
quick
Vandana.
because we are running out of time.
Yeah, but people can take the posts. I just want to thank Dr. Narendra and Gopal. So thank you so much. It was like going back to the good old school days, no longer being the student of Dr. Rajsekharan, and we also being the students of Dr. Rajsekharan. And it was an immense pleasure to listen to you this particular lecture. And thanks to Dr. Ratna for coming out with this beautiful case study. And we would like to hear more from you, sir. Maybe whenever the time permits, definitely we'll like to have more cases from listen from your side. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ravi. Dr. Ravi is the Associate Project Director in Share India, looking after the entire NISTID project. And of course, he is one of the backbone why we are here and able to organize all these things. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir. And just to tell you, we've been there with sir in Tamaram, and been there with Rajsekharan sir for so many years, being associated at NACO level in developing those modules for the medical officers and coming out with many things under Dr. Rajsekharan sir, setting up Center of Excellence even in Vijayawada. So I just can't stop listing out the things that have been done under Dr. Rajsekharan sir. And thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure listening to you.
It's time we move to case presentation. Dr. Ratnamani, are you there? Case presentation will be by Dr. Ratnamani, Medical Officer, Government General Hospital, Kakinada, Andhra Pradesh.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Ratnamani, working as a medical officer at the Kakinada Nodal ART Center in Andhra Pradesh. Good afternoon, Upasana Gaval ma'am. Good afternoon, Ravi sir, and a very special on IRIS TB and points on COVID IRIS, which are very helpful for us in present scenario to us. And while going to the case, I'm today here to present about a newly diagnosed PL-HIV with tuberculosis abdomen. And the details of the case are as follows. He's a 40-year-old male diagnosed as retropositive on 18th of May this year, 2020. After giving prepared counseling and ruling out forest symptoms, he was initiated on ART with a TLE regimen on 19th of May, 2020. After 15 days, he came to our ART center with complaints of severe loose stools, which are more than 15 episodes immediately after taking TLE drug. And he had a history of abdomen pain, and he also noticed a mild distension of abdomen since 5 days then. He had history of vomitings and also history of fever, which is on and off in onset. He was advised for CB-NAT sputum and USG abdomen from our ART side, and he was referred to general medicine OP for further evaluation. And he was registered at our ART center on 19th of May 2020, and he was initiated on ART on 19th of May 2020. He was confirmed with tuberculosis on 14th of June 2020, and he was initiated on anti-tubercular therapy on 17th of June 2020. It's an extrapulmonary tuberculosis, and he had any history of tuberculosis in past. And the other details of the patient are, patient was admitted in the medical ward. It is approximately around 20 days, and he have undergone routine blood investigations, whereas serial monitoring of hemoglobin, platelet count, renal function test, and liver function test has been done. The CBNAT for sputum has been done twice, in which it have not detected any Mycobacterium tubercular bacilli. The sputum culture and sensitivity have showed few pus cells and epithelial cells, and normal flora have been seen. His blood and urine culture sensitivity showed no growth of organism, and his chest X-ray showed apparent cardiomegaly, and his bilateral lung fields appeared clear to visualized extent. His USG abdomen showed moderate to gross fluid collection in the abdomen, whereas his fluid has been done for ascitic tapping. Ascitic fluid tapping has been done, and fluid has sent for analysis. And his ascitic fluid analysis showed his CBNAT Mycobacterium tubercular bacilli have not been detected, and culture and sensitivity of the fluid have showed no pus cells or no organisms have been seen. And ascitic fluid smear have not shown any growth of acid-fast bacilli. The CT abdomen showed etiology of omental nodular thickening, which showed the possibility of POTS. And the patient referred from medical ward to ART center to initiate on anti-tubercular therapy on 17th of June 2020. And he was initiated on category 1 anti-tubercular therapy with 4 pills per day according to his weight band. Now patient improved symptomatically and he is doing well. I have encountered the patient 2 days ago, whereas he's doing good. Other than general weakness, he don't have any symptoms now. And at the time of ART initiation, his CD4 is around 259. And these all are his lab reports, in which initially his serum creatinine and urea are elevated, and his hemoglobin is 7.2, which is low. And his blood, the culture sensitivity of blood, urine, and sputum have not shown any growth of organism, as I said earlier. And the CBNAT have been done for twice, and it have not detected any Mycobacterium tubercular bacilli. As now, he is on TLE regimen, and he is on category 1 anti-tubercular therapy, 4 pills per day. He was also on cotrimoxazole prophylaxis therapy. And the other medicines are like B-complex and tablet metoprolol 25 mg, which was advised from medical department. And now the issues for discussion are iris tuberculosis abdomen, and is there any difference in line of treatment in PL-HIVs with iris TB abdomen to normal tuberculosis of abdomen, and follow-up care for this patient? All these are the patient OP book, where the details of the patient are enclosed in this. This is the white card of the patient, whereas yes, his wife of the patient is also positive. She was also on ART, and he had a history. He's a known alcoholic, which he was stopped 6 months ago. These all are the details of the patient, discharge summary of the patient, and I could able to get only this film due to COVID. And as this is the COVID era, he was also tested for COVID test, which is negative for it. this is the history of the patient.
Thank you, Dr. Ratna. Very well worked up case, and you have told us the case very clearly. The only thing and the concerns that you have raised about iris TB abdomen and whether a HIV TB person abdomen have to be treated differently are very relevant concerns. The only thing I would like to add before I asked Dr. Narendra sir for his expert opinion is that what we miss even in our robust intensified case finding is looking for extrapulmonary before starting the ART. We just look for pulmonary TB, and if we don't find pulmonary TB, we get casual about it. We are like rest assured, okay, there is no TB. But we have to be more active in finding extrapulmonary TB. So looking for those, if there are no symptoms, we don't extrapulmonary TB. For most of us, it doesn't come in our mind. So we have to have the right approach, and whatever there's something missing when it comes to extrapulmonary TB in our program. It's not as robust as finding a pulmonary TB in HIV patients. So there's something that has to be done there. But with this comment, I would like to move to Dr. Narendra sir and would like to ask his opinion about what he felt for the case and how we should have approached it, or whether it was rightly approached. Sir?
Madam, I definitely concur with you, but the thing is, we always do the same mistake, whether it is not specific to any RT center. We always overlook EPTB because of the varied presentation. That's why tuberculosis plays the full even now, and it's very difficult for us to eliminate it, even though our Honorable Prime Minister has kept a goal of 2025 for elimination of TB. So the thing is, number one, I would like to congratulate the presenter for two things. One is the way in which it has been masked. I don't know whether it's the presenter or the organizer. Lots of times we see in presentations the name of the person, the personal details. So when I saw this case sheet which was given to me, I was really appreciative of the fact that it has been done with full of ethics. So hats off to whoever has done that. I do not know whether it's the presenter or the organizer. First, I should appreciate this point, because lots of times out of enthusiasm, we medical folks just start presenting a photograph. The patient's photograph is totally revealed to this thing, and it is not absolute, because there is an integrity involved. This does not belong to just HIV. To any patient or any we never call somebody a patient. As far as we are concerned, we call them as a study participant. So even that subject word has been removed from research. So that is how first, congratulations. Secondly, when you are looking at iris, it's very important for you to rule out common things common. So I appreciate the presenter, because she had done the COVID test, because we don't know how COVID, it's a new guy who we do not know how he bats. So it's very difficult for us to bowl him out. So, so that is again appreciative. The peculiar things which I see in this is, one is the CD4 is quite high to me, because we have been dealing with the era of iris where the CD4s are unidigital. We have got 1 to 9. Even 0 CD4s we have seen patients, and they have not done so well. Out of our 9 cases with less than 9 CD4 cells, only 4 of them survived. The rest of the 5, we had very severe iris, and we do not know whether they died of the disease or due to iris. So that is something. Secondly, the gene expert is negative in this case is a little puzzling, because it more looks like an unmasking type of iris, where the patients had some, it's as I told you, it's either it's undiagnosed TB or undisclosed history, and the patient has unmasked. The masking of the lesion has been unmasked from the site of the abdomen. Some node in the mesenteric nodes has erupted, and that has caused this picture. Omental thickening as such, very rare to get it in HIV TB. So that means that immunity is still intact, because thickening, fibrosis, all of them are in favor of, but it can occur, because TB abdomen can present as a plastic reactive way, or in a very placid way with polyserositis, where you have ascites. If you look at the chest X-ray, the right CP angle is blunted. So there is a minimal pleural effusion associated with this case. So obviously, because transdiaphragmatic channels, you do get it very, very easily with ascites. So not getting a bacilli or a gene expert, because I can understand very well that it's not easy for us to pick up the bacilli from the ascitic fluid. Even in the culture, it's only 30% positive. But gene expert being negative in ascitic fluid is something I think something which is, but it has been excellently worked up and managed by the presenter, and so hats off to your team. You have done a very, 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 very good job. So not only that, a detailed job with respect to facilities available in a government setup. I belong to a government setup. I know the problems. I know the advantages and disadvantages there. We know the facilities which are available. Luckily for me, I was born and brought up by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, so we could easily look at the cytokines, we look at the monocytes, we look at the phenotype of CD4 cells, which is not possible in an ART setup. So it has been very detailed. There has been a detailed workup. These are the only points. And the other is a lymphocytic predominance is usually seen with TB bacilli, the ascitic fluid. So there is no mention, we only mention about pus cells. The cell count makes a matter. The most important differential diagnosis, which I will keep it in my mind, is just to rule out lymphoma for discussion's sake. This is not a, this is a clear-cut picture of TB abdomen. Lymphoma, have it in mind because it can also produce the same way. Abdominal TB is very, very difficult to, abdominal iris, especially paradoxical one, is very difficult to tackle. People will start pouring pus from, we do not know from which they get. They finally end up with the psoas abscess or something like that. We see the abscess is busting out, we open it, and then they start flowing this pus, and then they become hypoproteic, and we have seen them die. So you have nicely worked up the case, and you immediately started the patient on ATT. So it's a good thing that you have, I don't see anything wrong in the way in which it has been managed. In fact, I am full of praise for the team which has presented it. These are only the peculiarities, because medicine is like what our this thing, science is very, very funny this thing, because it creates 10 more queries when you start presenting one query. So that is how science evolves. So with this, I hand over, and it's very, very simple that now this is unmasking because the patient did not have any previous history of treatment. It's not paradoxical, it is typically unmasking. Is there a difference in treatment? Unmasking, very simple, just start the patient on ATT. So the problem is whether to give steroids or not. That's really a difficult question for me to answer. You have to do it under cover of gastroenterologist, because as the lesions start fibrosing, you can develop strictures at some point of time. So a CT abdomen, if it is repeated, it will be very good for you to find out how much gross is the omental thickening, because thickening is something which we do not usually see in HIV. But since you have seen that, there can be complications without steroids. So that is the only reason under cover of ATT, you can give steroids with a gastroenterologist opinion. And that covers it. Congrats once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would like Dr. Manna, can we please have the feedback polls as we close the session? Because
Yes, sure, Dr. Danya. I know the topic is so wonderful that this much of time is not justified, and that too from Dr. Narendran.
So Dr. Vandana, maybe I could make a suggestion that if somebody else also has the iris case, probably they could present it in the next meeting, and we could call Dr. Narendran for his expertise again. If some people feel that they need more inputs from Dr. Narendran, because please don't go away from here with any doubts in your mind about TB iris. You are indeed fortunate to have Dr. Narendran answering questions for you. So if anybody has a TB iris case, I would request you to send them to us. Now you know what is TB iris. So please, if there's a case, please send it to us. We would really like to present it again and call sir, maybe not for a presentation again, but at least for his expertise, for his technical comments. So while we do the feedback poll, if anybody has any question from Dr. Narendran, they are welcome to ask.
Ma'am, I have also shared my email. If anybody wants to send me an email queries, they can feel free to do so.
Okay, thank you so much. And you also have Dr. Narendran's email. And any problem, you could obviously write to him directly, which is a rare, very, very rare thing for our experts to do. Usually, they do not really freely answer. They are not that available. So thank you, sir. Any question that you can think of later, you don't feel you want to ask it now, or it comes to you later, please, you could email it directly to him. Or if you want, you could email to us and we will forward it to him. Whatever suits you best, whatever it is. So while you're doing the, is it okay? Vandana, where are we with the feedback?
It's
Just 30%.
like 29% done.
Why can't I see the poll? Okay. I'll just go on polls, right? Yeah.
You can just click on the
Yeah.
We can just take 30 seconds and we call off the meeting. We can call off the session.
Are we done?
Yes, ma'am. We can close now. I think.
Okay, thank you so much, and we will close now promptly. Thank you so much, Dr. Narendran, once again. Thank you, Kakinada ART
Thank you,
Plus.
ma'am.
Thank you, the SMO Kakinada, and it was a pleasure hearing from you. Thank you so much. With this, we close the session.
Thank you, Dr. Vandana, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ratna. Thank you, everyone.